guiding and leading and directing us in this service this morning. We take a moment to breathe deeply and to open our hearts fully, that we might be filled by the presence, that we might be touched by the Spirit of the living God. So we say, come, Holy Spirit, come, and fall fresh upon us, bringing forth your healing balm of comfort. Soothe us in ways that we heretofore have not known we can be comforted, lifted up in spirit by your very presence. Yes, this is the day that the Lord has made, and we are rejoicing because we are here to express deep gratitude for life itself. So I ask for your continued blessings upon this beautiful family and all those who have gathered to celebrate. It's such an honor that we could be in one another's presence this morning. So we're grateful for that simple expression. Let all hearts truly be now blessed, open and receptive to the living Spirit of truth and to the blessings that are ours, that we may go forth from this day still in remembrance of God and of his beloved one, Leo Blatch, in whom he is well pleased. And for this we say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's just take a deep breath. And so it is. Amen and amen. And now we'll have the reading of the scripture by Kari Alexander
replied, "Have I been with you so long?"
Miss Renee Bonds. Great is thy faithfulness. What a blessing and a treat it always is to receive your beautiful message in song. I hope that touched and opened your heart and remind you that God is a faithful God, a good God. Yes, and so we're grateful for that. And now we will have the reading of the obituary. I call forth Mr. Dan Geiger.
Good morning, everyone. Leo Belloc Blatch, aged 89, of Washington, D.C., passed away peacefully in his sleep on January 24th, 2023. Born May 25th, 1933 in Miami, Florida, to Mary and Arthur Blatch, Leo was the second youngest of 5 children. Both of his parents were born and raised in the Bahamas, and he grew up in a close-knit community, almost all of whom were of Bahamian descent. Leo was gifted academically from an early age, earning the nickname Galileo. I love that one. He graduated high school 2 years early and was offered a full scholarship to become an Episcopal minister. But to his family's chagrin, he turned it down and instead completed his bachelor's degree at Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, majoring in political science. He was a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. After graduating in 1954, he signed up for the U.S. Army. He intended to use the GI Bill to finance law school. At the time when the standardized tests administered by the Army were overtly discriminatory against black people, Leo had one of the highest scores. Because of this, he was sent to the cold mountains of Germany to learn the math required to operate the long-distance guns then aimed at Hungary. Leo was always grateful that they never actually had to fire the guns during the Hungarian Revolution of 1956. Though the men in his unit were not officers, they were not ordinary GIs. It was an exclusive unit of highly intelligent men, educated at some of the finest Ivy League schools, and deemed capable of mastering the complex math required to fire these guns. As the only black man in the unit, Leo was met with stony silence. On the streets of Germany, he was sometimes followed by groups of children asking if they could see his tail. But when he aced the first exam and everyone else flunked, his fellow servicemen took notice. In addition to his obvious intelligence, there were some in his unit who were also drawn to his extensive collection of jazz, which he played constantly. Over time, he did form a couple of friendships with members of his unit, including one very close friendship. Following his military service, in 1957, he moved to Washington, D.C. to enroll in Howard University School of Law. At that time, the school served as a resource for civil rights attorneys, including Thurgood Marshall, Nabrett, and Spotswood W. Robinson, who were bringing cases throughout the South seeking enforcement of the Supreme Court's 1954 Brown v. Board of Education decision. Leo and his fellow law review classmates did research, worked on appellate briefs, and helped with mock oral arguments to support these cases. They played an active role in the discrimination cases that changed the nation. Leo graduated from Howard magna cum laude in 1960. He was the first in his class and editor of the Law Review. After graduating law school, Leo joined the National Labor Relations Board, known as the NLRB, as an attorney in the General Counsel Office of Advice, and later the Office of Appeals. He was the first black attorney in the General Counsel's office and the first black attorney promoted to a supervisory role in that office. He was noted for his steel-trap mind and for his outstanding writing and editing skills. But Leo did a lot more than labor law. He continued his interest in civil rights, and in 1963, he was a marshal in the March on Washington, where he soaked his feet in the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool while listening to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. At work, a steady stream of employees came for free legal advice on civil rights issues, debt or credit issues, domestic relations, and other issues. He was also a tax expert and ran a small tax business on the side, assisting small Black-owned businesses with their tax returns and advising on good business practices. He developed a reputation as the People's Counsel because of his willingness to help others with their legal issues. It was at the NLRB that he met his wife, Lynn, then an attorney in the NLRB Office of Appeals. They married in 1970. They have 2 daughters, Mary and Sedella, and raised them in Shepherd Park neighborhood of Washington, D.C. A devoted father, Leo coached a neighborhood soccer team, took his girls to amusement parks, and was always good for a late-night pickup from the movies. He was incredibly patient, the best listener, and a steadfast comforter. He served as deputy acolyte master, teaching his girls and other children how to serve on the altar as he did when he was a child. He was also an excellent cook. His Bahamian-style fried fish, pigeon peas and rice, conch fritters, fried chicken, and mac and cheese were favorites with everyone. I'll testify. He was also known for his unique sense of fashion. Everyone loved his bow ties and vests. Leo was a passionate sports fan from childhood on. He often told of the time when, as a kid, he was so focused on catching the football on a long pass that he ran straight into the goalpost, suffering a mild concussion. Determined man. As an adult, Leo was a dedicated golfer and Washington Commanders football team fan. He had season tickets for 25 years and could be found at East Potomac Golf Course working on his game whenever possible. Even when his many health challenges restricted him, he never lost the desire to be on the driving range or putting green. Leo was particularly passionate about jazz. He often said that if it was not such a hard lifestyle, he would have been a musician rather than an attorney. He saw all the jazz greats in person and had an outstanding music collection. Wherever Leo was, at home, in the office, or in the car, he had his music playing. He was always happy to introduce others to jazz and share his in-depth knowledge. He always said his only regret in life was not learning to play the upright bass. Leo was a lifelong learner with an inquiring mind, as well as a prolific reader and crossword puzzle aficionado. He was knowledgeable about many of the world's faiths and mythologies. Everyone loved him. He was smart, funny, and had an easygoing nature. Though gifted intellectually, he never put on airs or set himself above others. Leo had the ability to put everyone at ease by making them laugh and instinctively making them feel welcome. At the same time, he was fearless in pursuing what he felt was right, whether on behalf of someone else or his family's interests. He was one of the community leaders who defeated the attempt to build a Wendy's fast food outlet in the neighborhood and instead established the Shepherd Park Library. All right, libraries. He was not a regular churchgoer, but was a deeply spiritual man. His Episcopal hymnal was worn and threadbare from use. He sometimes read it before holiday meals with the family. He also regularly participated in fellowship with others in pursuit of spiritual progress. Leo was preceded in death by his parents, his sister Barbara Brooks, and his brother Norman and Arthur Jr. His first marriage to Rita Clinkscale, now deceased, ended in divorce. He is survived by his wife Marilyn Geiger Blatch, also known as Lynn Blatch, their daughters Mary and her husband Robert Lee, and Sedella and Kari Alexander. Their grandchildren, Josephine and Christopher Lee, his sister, Gloria McPhee, and many nieces, nephews, cousins, and in-laws. The family requests that if you're so moved, you can make donations in Leo's honor to N Street Village. The web address is on the back of the program. Leo always admired the services it provides to the residents of DC.
Oh, love, that wilt not let me go, I rest my weary soul in thee. I give thee back the life I owe, that in thine ocean depths its flow may richer, fuller be. O light that followest all my way, I yield my flickering torch to thee. My heart restores its borrowed ray, that in thy sunshine's blaze its day may brighter, fairer be. O joy that seekest me through pain, I cannot close my heart to thee. I trace the rainbow through the rain and know the promise is not vain, that morn shall tearless be. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Michelle Titi. Beautiful. 2 points I want to make. I know that as you were following, perhaps reading of the obituary, you noticed that the pages were out of alignment. So please do, at your own time, take a moment to read it again so that you get the full flavor. But thank you so much for that. And just to let you know, the order of service, we're up to our tributes, but Miss Arlene Sandifer is not able to be with us this morning, so we just send her love and light for her healing as she continues to get well. So we call forth Miss Angela Alston, followed by Thomas T.J. Jones.
loving tributes. Good morning. Again, I'm Angela. And first, I want to ask you to indulge me. And let's give Leo an applause for a life well lived. Thank you. Good morning. First, I want to thank Lynn, Mary, and Sid for sharing Leo with me and countless others. Your graciousness, kindness, and hospitality for almost 30 years will endear all of you to me forever. To the congregants here today, I want you to know that I stand before you, a person changed for the better because I knew Leo. Reading Leo's what is called an obituary, but what I would like to think is his life story, and a beautiful one at that. So in reading it, we ought to be convinced that Leo personified his name, a name that dates back centuries and stems from the Latin word lion. The name implies bravery and lion-hearted. And Leo was the lion of downtown Noon. Ask any old-timer, and there are boundless stories of Leo's roar when things went from rambunctious to rowdy. And for the old-timers, this was often seen as Leo the hilarious and his hijinks. But for a newcomer like myself, it only entrenched my seat in the very back of the room, praying that no one would call on me, especially Leo. His trademark bow ties and his dapper dress seemed to only enhance his lionized status. Then one day, like bingo, the chips aligned, and it was then my turn to introduce myself. Leo spoke to me at the end of that meeting. And long story short, it was the end of my days sitting in the back, AKA death row. And it was the beginning of an almost 30-year friendship. Luke 12:48, the King James Version, says, "To whom much is given, much is required." The Creator smiled with great favor upon Leo, for his gifts were many. And I stand here today before you, grateful for having been the beneficiary of his many talents, his advice, his counsel, his support, his custodianship, and yes, even finances. When I learned of the family's suggestion to donate to N Street Village, I told the family, this is so wonderful, for you may recall that into my 5th year of knowing Leo, I ended up at N Street Village on what was then a dual diagnosis unit. Leo helped bring me from the depths of despair. The women of N Street were big beneficiaries of Leo's largesse. He provided counsel, rides, and even funds when he heard compelling stories. Helping the women of N Street Village was Leo's calling, one he answered to with humility, compassion, and vigor. N Street Village was Leo's ministry. And there are countless women like myself who will always be the beneficiary of his kindness, of his intelligence, and gifts too numerous to mention. So in closing, I want to take from a Broadway play that just ended at the Kennedy Center, where, thanks to Leo, I had been there for 17 years. And that's no small accomplishment. So I want to say that I stand here changed for good because I knew Leo. I had been changed for good. And I am grateful to the Creator for sending us Leo. And I look forward to seeing him on the other side. Thank you for allowing me to talk about my friend this morning. And I'm sure he was a friend to many. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn, for asking me.
Is Mr. Thomas T.J. in the house? Please come forward. And thank you for assisting our ladies. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say good morning to everyone. I want to say thank you to the Lord for allowing us to be in one place, in one space, in the name of Uncle Leo. I call him Uncle Leo because he was an uncle to me. He was a friend and a mentor. And I just want to say thank you, Uncle Leo. I know you're looking down on us. I know you have this smile right here. You got jazz. And I know you're saying right now, this is the best service ever. So I just want to say thank you for allowing me to share some time with you in life, for teaching me the benefits and the purpose of a suit. You know, so I remember a time when Uncle Leo say, come past my house, I have something for you. I said, okay. So when I get past the house, we go upstairs, he showed me these suits and said, hey, this is for you. I said, okay. We tried a sports jacket on, and everything was cool, and I was like, Uncle Leo, I really appreciate this. When I got home, I opened up the bag, looked at the suits again, I tried them on. I was like, oh, shucks, I got me some suits. You know? And so from that point on, he taught me how to combinate the suits. He also taught me how to have a good ear for music. Coltrane, Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock, Sarah Vaughan's, the list can go on and on. So I just want to thank the Blatch family for allowing me to be here to have a word to say. And thank you, Uncle Leo, and thank everyone for allowing me to share my voice. So thank you.
No complaints and no regrets. I still believe in chasing dreams and placing bets. But I have learned that all you give is all you get. So give it all you got. I had my share, I drank my fill, and even though I'm satisfied, I'm hungry still to see what's down another road beyond the hill and do it all again. So here's to life and every joy it brings. So here's to life, to dreamers and their dreams. Funny how the time just flies. How love can go from warm hellos to sad goodbyes and leave you with the memories you've memorized to keep your winters warm. But there's no yes in yesterday, and who knows what tomorrow brings or takes away. As long as I'm still in the game, I wanna play for laughs, for life, for love. So here's to life and every joy it brings. Yes, here's to life, to dreamers and their dreams. May all your storms be weathered, and all that's good get better. Here's to life, here's to love, here's to you. May all your storms be weathered, and all that's good get better. Here's to life, here's to love, here's to you.
I know Leo enjoyed that. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Renee, Miss Renee Barnes. And I'm putting in a request. I want to hear that one Sunday morning. All right, Richard? Thank you. Thank you. That was beautiful. Because it's not just something that we're singing in a sad way about a life, but here's to life, you know? So we're here to enjoy it and live it well and to celebrate. So thank you so much. And we'll have loving tributes once again from Mr. Jim Geiger, and then, of course, the beloved of Leo, Mary and Cedella Blatch.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you. What a nice service so far. Leo was my uncle. You can tell by the striking resemblance. And one of my best friends for the last 35 years. He personally picked me up at the airport in the summer of 1988 when I began graduate school here. And we've been close, very close ever since. Their family adopted me as practically one of their own, and it was a major part of my life. So when Mary invited me to say a couple words here, of course I wanted to. I wanted to describe what Leo meant to me. And I thought my morning walks, and it was just a blur of so many things I needed to express. And I was reminded of an anecdote I heard about a young Bob Dylan who was asked to say in 25 words or less what his idol, Woody Guthrie, meant to him. And he produced a 5-page poem which became one of his most well-known works. Well, unfortunately, I don't have that poem for you. I can't adequately describe in words what Leo's friendship meant to me, how much I enjoyed my conversations with him about music, about history, about politics, about current events, about race, about sports. I can't describe how effortlessly cool he was and how charming he was. And just, he was my idol. But I would like to remark on one thing that remains with me and will remain with me, which I've heard references to already in some other tributes. Leo gave me the confidence to deal with life's problems and the big decisions one has to make in life. And he started that from my second year here in graduate school, my first major crisis. And to this day, he guides me through these things. Most recently, I left Washington, D.C. after 34 years and moved back to Milwaukee with my Brazilian wife who doesn't know anything about winter. Well, Leo, he didn't tell you what to do. He didn't tell you how to solve a problem or what not to do, but he was somehow a magical sounding board for me. And I'm going to keep that in my life, and he's going to continue to be my sounding board. And Leo, for that, I really thank you. And I thank you for being such a huge role in my life. And I love you, Leo. But I won't miss you because you're going to be with me. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Mary. I know sometimes people get us mixed up. I'm the older one. And just thank you, everyone, for coming out and sharing your memories and sentiments of our father with us. So here's mine. When I was graduating from college, my friends and our families, we had a big celebration all together. And the parents had the opportunity to stand up and toast their daughters. And I remember, my father stood up and, talked about what a great daughter I am, the great person, all those wonderful things. And then he ended with this statement about how he didn't feel he had anything to do with it. Like, it was just totally, had nothing to do with the person that I had become. And I remember feeling totally shocked at that. And I know I tried to express at the time that he had everything to do with the person that I had become. But I probably couldn't do that very well as a 21-year-old with, that kind of life experience and perspective, or lack of life experience and perspective. I hope I was later able to make that point to him, but now, in retrospect, I can see so clearly, the wonderful father I had and the gift it was to have him in my life. So he was fun, right? And as a parent, I really, really hate to reinforce the fun parent stereotype, at the fear that I am not that one. But, and no offense, Mom, Dad was the fun parent. You know, we put there were countless trips to the playground in the obituary for a reason, because that man would take us anytime we asked. We would always go to the National Capital Children's Museum. He would take us to King's Dominion like every year. The man never rode a ride. He would just sit there and do crossword puzzles while we went all around doing whatever. He even took us solo to Disney World so that we could have the experience of having gone to Disney World. Sometimes when he picked us up after school, he would take us to the drugstore to get what he called a sneaky. It's the little toy from the drugstore that he would buy us. I loved those sneakies. As you've heard, Dad loved to golf. He loved the Washington football team. And when I showed interest in these hobbies, he shared them with me. He taught me the rules of football so I could actually understand the game, which has continued to serve me as an adult so I can actually pay attention to a football game. And then he actually took me to some of his football games, which to do, he had to trade a ticket. So he would miss a game so that he could bring me to watch football with him. And he wasn't even upset when, after all that, I was much more impressed by the nachos at the concession than, actually going to what at the time was, quite a coveted ticket to go to. When I expressed an interest in golf, he, I feel like almost immediately bought me a set of junior clubs and started taking me with him to the golf course and the driving range. He gave me lessons. Again, I was probably a little more interested in driving the golf cart, and I remember the clubhouse had really good bacon cheeseburgers, but as long as I was game, he was going to include me in his love of golf, and definitely that rudimentary little bit of golf skill I gained has definitely come in handy with many corporate golf outings where at least I look like I kind of know what I'm doing. I don't wear the glove on both hands. Music, you guys have heard, and if you knew him, you know what a huge music fan my father was. But what he did with us, instead of trying to push jazz on us, I feel like every week he would bring home some new album of whatever was popular at the time. I mean, we probably had the biggest and best record collection of any, elementary school students at the time, and that was all through Dad and him wanting to share his love of music with us. He enjoyed his life, and he helped us enjoy ours. Looking back now, I can see, he had work-life balance before that was a thing, and I've definitely carried that with me. I've always sort of pushed away the idea of being a workaholic because I had such a good role model of someone who was balancing work with having a joyful life. We've heard about how curious, and he was a lifelong learner. One thing we probably should have added to the obituary is he was a Gemini, and he loved astrology. And as a true Gemini, I'm also a Gemini, he was curious about so much and shared that curiosity with us. He was always reading and exploring new things. And even, just a couple years ago, while he was in the assisted living facility, he asked me to get him a copy of the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu and the Rubaiyat by Omar Khayyam. And I remember thinking, God, I hope when I'm 88, I'm still interested in reading, world philosophers. But that was Dad. Growing up, we had this decrepit bathroom in the basement that he started to call the okra room. Remember that room? Because he loved okra. That was one of his favorite foods. And so he had this bookshelf in there, and it was filled with books of what he called his esoteric books on topics like astrology, numerology, mythology, all kinds of like crazy mysticism. And at some point I discovered this bookshelf and was just very interested in these topics and started reading these books, and we would talk about his beliefs about it and what he thought was legit and what he thought was not. And so, we shared that love of knowledge, and I didn't appreciate it at the time. I was probably a preteen or tween. But, it's actually, I definitely appreciate it now as a lawyer, how unusual it is for a lawyer to be openly interested in such sort of non-rational topics of study. And it's always been, something that I keep in mind, follow your curiosity, even when it's taking you off a beaten path. I had the best childhood, and I think that's why I was shocked when he said that at that college party. There was so much happiness, so much love, so much fun. Frankly, my childhood was so good that, I had said to myself, man, I want to have some kids and give them the wonderful experience that I had, and that was a huge motivation for me in wanting to have kids. And now that I am a parent myself, I can see that there are two other key things my father did that shaped me, I'm sure Sid as well, as a person, and actually, Jim, you alluded to it as well. So first, he was present. He was so present. I never questioned where I stood in terms of my father's priorities. His work, hobbies, other preoccupations were never more central in his life than we were. Or if they were, I sure couldn't tell. He was physically present, but of course, more than that, he was involved in our lives in a way that sometimes fathers are not. The best example I can give of this is Dad was the morning parent. And so if you have kids, you know what the morning parent is. I'm the morning parent. It's the person who wakes the kids up. They fix the breakfast. They probably are packing lunches. They're making sure they're dressed. They're getting them to school or the before care. And I remember that he developed this whole ritual where he would wake me up out of bed, carry me down the stairs. And I don't think I was super small at this point. I was in grade school. I could walk. He would carry me down the stairs, sit me at the breakfast table where he already had a bowl of cream of wheat or oatmeal prepared and waiting for me hot to eat. And he would make up all these silly songs to sing. Wow, I don't know if you were old enough to remember. He would make up all these silly songs to sing while he would carry me down. And it was just, the most wonderful way to wake up and have to start your day. And when you have that level of care and attention lavished on you by your father, you're important to him. I don't think either of us has ever had a question about that in our minds. And that's just a huge gift for a father to give to their child. The other thing Dad did so well is that he made me feel 100% accepted. As Jim mentioned, he had this way of giving advice. It was so comforting. You didn't feel alone in your difficulty, and you knew that if you just did the best you can under the circumstances, you were doing it right. He rarely judged. He rarely criticized. He never made me feel like I didn't live up to his expectations. He might get mad at time to time, but nothing was ever personal with him. And frankly, I didn't even realize that he was doing this until I had children of my own. And I've learned just how hard it is to, really express your love for your kids that way. But Dad did that for us. And so those qualities of his love of having fun, his curiosity, his ability to just be present and to love and to accept, We've heard he shared that with many in his life, not just us as his daughters, and I think that's why he's so beloved. I know he would be touched to hear everyone's tributes and to know all these people have turned out. I want to acknowledge the people who may be tuning in from remote. I know his family in Miami is there, and I know he loved you guys so much. And so I just want to say thank you. I know that he made an impact on me. He made an impact on you guys, and that we are our wonderful selves in some part because of Leo Blatch. Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sidella, or Sid, the other one. That was beautiful. You only stole a little bit of my thunder, so that's okay. Just a little bit. But everyone who spoke, because I think we can all see how bright and wonderful that my dad was. So one of the things I did in the past couple weeks was to write the death notice, and it's short, but I wanted to put a little something about sort of his flair in there. And I just kept thinking light, brightness and light. And to me, he was such a light. As Mary said, he was just an extremely consistent and patient father. He was always there. And to me, I feel like he was like how the sun is there every day. The sun rises every day. You know it's going to be there. It's bright, it's warm, it radiates on you. And that's how I felt about him as a father. Mary talked about all the sneakies. That was in my list too. And how he would take us anywhere. And Mary talked about how he would take us to King's Dominion, a large amusement park a couple hours away from here. And we would run around so we would say, we'll be back in an hour, but we would really come back like 3 hours later because we just wanted to get on all the possible rides. And he would so patiently sit there reading or doing crossword puzzles, and he was eating his famous salami and raisin bread sandwiches. It's actually really good though. It sounds gross, but actually it works really well. But that's how happy he was just for us to be happy. He could literally sit on that one bench for 10 hours straight while we were off going on all the rides we could, and just with his sandwich and his book, and he was fine. And I remember even when he had the neck brace on, he still would take us. And one time, he took the brace off just so we could get on a ride together that he probably should not have got on if he had a neck injury, so he took the brace off so that the staff wouldn't see. But again, as a light, I think he was just an extremely bright person, in that he was someone that you just wanted to be around. You wanted to be in his presence. He was always funny, as you've heard, but even if he was sick, even when he didn't feel well, he was still hilarious. I had a video call with him the day before he passed. We talked every day for the past 3 years, and he still was joking that day. And even though he was uncomfortable, he still was funny. He still wanted to put a smile on your face, even though he was suffering. He had a lot of jokes with the staff at the facility where he lived. Years ago, his sister Gloria did some genealogy research for the family and found that we have heritage from the Igbo tribe in Nigeria. So of course, who knows this, but when he was at the residences of Thomas Circle, he would joke with a lot of the staff, "You have to treat me well because I'm an Igbo prince." And a few months ago, so when I would go and visit him, and we would just hang out and talk and spend time together and watch TV, and he's very picky about his TV. But so one day we were watching like dirt bike racing or motocross, where with all the hills where they have to go up and down the hills. Not a sport either one of us, takes to, but with him, anything was fun. Anything we sat and did and watched, we just had a ball, even if it's something we didn't even care about. But so, of course, while we're watching this the whole time, he's just willing the people to fall. So he's fall, because it made it more interesting if they fall off the bike. He made everyone comfortable. As you've already heard, he made everyone feel included. And I think he really saw people. And I think that's one of the greatest things I learned from him, is to see everyone who's there as an individual and have them know that you see them. And I just hope that's a gift that I've carried on from him. I mentioned the staff at the place he lived, and they went out of their way for him. And I think it's a reflection of how wonderful he was. There was a woman there named Kathleen, who, of course, he befriended like most of the staff there. And he remembered some song from like 1950 something called Kathleen, and he would sing it to her every time she came in the room. And of course, she'd never heard the song, not being of that age, and so we looked it up together so she could hear the song. He just did those little things just to brighten people, just because. So I feel that in that way he was a light, because you always felt his light shining on you. I also feel that, like the sun, he just was immensely strong, and in a spiritual way as well. As you've heard, he's just a deeply spiritual person and a tremendous amount of faith. Mary talked about all the esoteric things that he would read about, and the Okra basement. I forgot it was called the Okra basement. And I remember as a kid, at one point, I wanted to have a whole set of encyclopedias. You remember the A through Z, each volume, before the internet, when you were doing homework and you had to look up something, right? You needed an encyclopedia. Where were you going to get the answer from? So I would beg my parents for an encyclopedia, even though there was a library like 4 blocks away, and that's why they were like, no. And now I agree, that was a good move. I should just walk to the library. But the encyclopedia set that we did own that sat in the Okra room was about 30 volumes called Man, Myth, and Magic. Yes. How many people need that many books? A whole on just Man, Myth, and Magic, but not a regular encyclopedia. He was incredibly patient, and also patient and positive about his own health. He was in pain for a long time, unfortunately decades, but the resiliency that he carried about the way he went about his goals for his health. He always kept goals of getting better, but they weren't ridiculously outlandish. They were realistic, but he somehow balanced striving to want to feel better with accepting how he did feel and being okay with it. I've just never seen anyone who could do that with the amount of pain that he had and the limited mobility he had. He accepted it, but he did not assume that would be forever. Just incredible. So lastly, I want to say, as a light, like some of you have said, he was my best friend. He knew me better than I know myself. And I hope I learned about myself from him, because as you've heard, he just had this ability to make you feel better and walk you through whatever it was. So when COVID hit initially, and at that time, like many, I was going into the office 5 days a week. And I'm very extroverted, so I really liked that. And just as soon as COVID came, he called me and said, I'm calling you every day because I know you're going to miss seeing people every day. And we kept that up. He knew before I knew that that's what I needed. And that's how wonderful he was. He knew what you needed, and he was always there to provide that. He had faith in you beyond your own faith in yourself. So some years ago, and sometimes I enjoy just writing fiction just for fun. And so I remember sharing a story with him, incomplete, because I don't do good at the whole completing part. Thank you. I remember sharing a story with him I wrote, and I think he printed it out, or Mom probably printed it out for him. And he kept it in a little file that he labeled Sid's novel. On an assumption that I was actually going to write a novel, which I don't know about all that, but he just kept it because that's how supportive he was, and that was really meaningful to me. As you've heard, he just gives the best advice. I can't tell you the number of times he pulled me out of a hole just with one conversation. One conversation with him could completely lift me when I was very down. And many times over the last couple of years in particular, when we knew, his health was declining and he wouldn't be around forever, him and I had so many conversations where we were both in tears, in a good way, about how supportive he was, about how helpful he was in that moment, and how much we loved each other. You just felt that from him. So I feel, again, that he's a light, and that even though now the light bulb is turned off, it's always going to radiate, because he always left a light on for us. He always left that light on for you. And in one of these conversations him and I had the past few months, because he was so wonderful, and I was sad about knowing he was passing. Of course, I had to talk to him about it because he's the best person to talk to. And I remember saying, "What am I going to do without you when you're gone?" And he said, "I'll be here forever." But I actually believe that. I think he will, because I think like the sun, like light, he's just always going to be here radiating on all of us. Thank you. Thank you.
That was actually so beautiful. You know that a person as a parent is loved when your children can speak so highly of you, that you've left such a powerful mark on the souls and on their hearts and on their beingness. That's a blessing. And you were blessed to have a wonderful, father and a wonderful mother who could really, set you on your journey. But, I'm sure he'd be the first to say that even though he was able to impress the value of love and light and life upon you, you still have to walk this journey. You have to walk this path, but you've been given such a strong foundation. So even if the road gets rocky, and the turns and the twists come unexpectedly, you have within you a deep foundation that can take you forward to wherever you need to go. And you are now having the blessed opportunity to pass that on as well. So I just wanted to, acknowledge your words, and I could feel just a sense of joy at hearing that. I do many, many services for many people, of course, and it's a delight when I can feel sort of what I say, the mark of a blessing upon another. So thank you for sharing that. And for all of you for being here as well. As I was thinking about what I wanted to share this morning, and I won't, be long, because I don't believe in going on for 3 and 4 hours or whatever, because those who knew Leo best already expressed their heartfelt thoughts and remembrances of him. But when I come, it's always my desire to help people to remember the Spirit of God, to remember the truth that even though our loved one is not present with us, that nothing is ever really lost. Sometimes people will say things like, I am sorry for your loss. And I wish we could change that. I wish people would really begin to understand that there are certain things that can never be lost. One is life itself, because life is the expression of the divine. Life is the expression of God, and therefore it can never be lost, because if we can lose God, then we're in a world of trouble. And love can never be lost. You were loved, and that love that you experience is with you and for you forever, because it's a quality of being. It's a quality of the divine that is eternal, infinite, and indestructible. But as I was listening to that, I had chosen a scripture to talk about, and it was going to be about David. David, of course, loved to play the harp, and he was guided. He loved music, and he was guided to work with King Saul. King Saul was always troubled. His spirit was always vexed, and so one of his members in his court said, well, there's a young man who plays the harp, Jesse's son named David. And if you listen to him, perhaps hearing the music and the harp would make you feel better. And so Saul then goes and he summons for David to come, and David plays his harp, he plays his music, and Saul's soul is soothed. And then Saul goes to his father and says, I just love David so much. Can you let him stay with me? And of course he does. And David becomes a wonderful character in the Bible. But he always had his music. And it said that David would dance and sing. And, at a time perhaps when you're supposed to be worshiping in a certain way, he brought that love of music. He brought that expression of God in the melodies of life, and he used it in a way that brought comfort and solace to souls through his love of music. So I had chosen that. But as I was listening and reading Leo's life story, I thought, I must speak a little bit about wisdom and understanding. Maybe the third, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And of course, we have a whole book in the Old Testament dedicated to wisdom and understanding, and it's Proverbs. And so I said, I should read from Proverbs. And so as I was in my office, this is what Leo presented me with, because I always like to feel a sense of the person's spirit as I pick the scriptures. And this one was from the first one. Let me read. It's from Proverbs 4, verse 4 through 9. Proverbs 4. And it says, my father taught me, take my words to heart. Follow my commands and you will live. Get wisdom. Develop good judgment. Don't forget my words or turn away from them. Don't turn your back on wisdom, for she will protect you. Love her, and she will guard you. Getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. And whatever else you do, develop good judgment. For if you prize wisdom, she will make you great. Embrace her, and she will honor you. And she will place a lovely wreath on your head, and she'll be present with you with a beautiful crown, wearing the crown of wisdom. And the other scripture that came, that's one of my favorites, is from Proverbs 3, verses 13 through 18. And it says, "Blessed are those who find wisdom and those who gain understanding. For she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She's more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant ways, and her paths are paths of peace. She is a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who hold her fast will be blessed." So I chose these scriptures, or rather, these scriptures chose me this morning, because it seems as if Leo had it right? Wisdom, the scripture says, if you got to get anything, make sure you get wisdom and understanding. And Leo had the capacity to not only get wisdom and understanding, but he was a man who loved to learn, loved, knowledge. So knowledge is important because it comes from our ability to use our intellect, which is a gift of God, but to use the intellect to know, right? But wisdom is that which allows you to apply what you know. A lot of people gain knowledge and accumulate knowledge just for the sake of gaining knowledge. But wisdom then comes into play when you're able to use that knowledge, not only for the betterment of yourself, but for the benefit of others, right? To bring knowledge to life, you use wisdom. And Leo had that gift. He had that gift. He had the gift also of understanding, because you can have knowledge, but believe it or not, you can lack understanding. There are people who are very book smart, they say, right, but have no common sense. They're not really able to understand, but they can, quote, do mathematics. But there's something to be able to take what you know and use it and apply it from wisdom and to understand it at a deeper level. I love that that people have shared so much how Leo really understood others, and that was one of the qualities that endeared him to those who met him and loved him, because everybody wants to feel like they are understood. Is that not true? We all want to feel this phrase that we all are familiar with, I think, which says, "Seek not to necessarily be understood, but to understand," meaning try to understand the other person's point of view. Try to be in their place for a moment. Because once people feel that you are really there not to judge them and not to categorize them and analyze them, but to really seek to understand who they are and what they may be experiencing, all of a sudden their heart expands and there's room for you in their heart because they feel understood. And Leo was able to do that. That's a divine gift. He was able to take his wonderful knowledge. And I love that he could be a person that had that legal mind, because you have to have a certain mind to have a legal mind, right? You could be, the Pharisees had legal minds, and these were the lawyers in the biblical days. But they were always with the letter of the law. And it was it's a fine tune that Jesus would say, it's not just the letter. Yes, we have to know, but it's the spirit of the law that really counts. And so Leo could vacillate between understanding the letter of the law and also what? The spirit. And it is his ability to really delve deeply into not just literalism, but go deeper, to seek to understand, not on a surface level, but to go underneath and go beyond what seems to be appearing, so that you can really search it out and know for your own self. That's to be honored. That's to be celebrated. That's to be acknowledged. And what it caused him to have was a full life. Curiosity. All of that caused him to, whether it's football or the law or music or astrology, it's the fullness of life. that we all should ascribe to, because that's what we want to have when the end of our days come upon this earth. We want to be able to feel that we've led a good life. We've loved heartedly. You know, we opened ourselves out to experience. Here's to life. That was so beautifully sung. Here's to life, and to live it well. I love a quote that I often use. It's a quote from the German philosopher Goethe, and he said that the glory of God is man fully alive. I love that quote. That we glorify God when we are able to live a full life. So the glory of God is man fully alive, enjoying life, living life, sharing, loving, moving beyond oneself, so that we could really express the fullness of who God is in life. And so I think God was well pleased with Leo, because he lived, right? He was fully alive and lived, and not just for himself, but for others, so that he could truly, be a light. And in this church, we talk a lot about being a light bearer, bringing light to the world, because that's what we're all here for. You see, sometimes we mistakenly think we're here for ourselves, but we are here for one another. We are here to be a blessing. We are here as instruments of God, that we might then be the light of the world, and to do it boldly and freely, to do it where we truly are actually maximizing this experience. My grandmother had a phrase, and it may, seem or feel or sound sacrilegious, but she would always say to me, she says, when I die, I'm going to be good and dead. And what she meant was she was going to live her life to the maximum, so that at the end, there would be no regrets, right? That she would really live. And so, if nothing else, as you go forth into this day, I hope you remember that love is eternal, Lynn. You can never be separated from the love of Leo and the love of God. And I know that you know that. And I ask that in the days ahead, those of you who loved Leo, then remember to continue to love Lynn, to reach out to her, to help her to remember that life is still full and worth living, and that she is loved and well cared for. And I know you girls will do that. So that's a wonderful thing. But that you go forth from this day being inspired by, Leo's life, and that you make a commitment to live your life honorably, faithfully, lovingly, open-hearted, open-minded, so that the fullness of who God is in and through and as you is able to shine forth, because that's the purpose for our coming together, not only to celebrate Leo's life, but to celebrate the Spirit of the living God in us as well. We're here. Those of us who remain are here still for a purpose, and we must continue on the journey of life. But let us walk this path together. Let us do so with the unending and enduring qualities of love and support and care and joy. To enjoy life. I loved hearing that, your father loved the joy that you experienced, that brought him joy. So we're here to bless each other, to remember who God is, and to live our life to the absolute utmost, the best and the highest. For we are the light of the world, and someone is seeking your light. Someone will need a kind word from you. Someone will be encouraged by your presence. Someone's life will be altered because of your life. If we remember that, then we go forth and we enjoy this gift that we are given. They say that life is God's gift to us, but what we do with our life is our gift to God. So let's live it well. Let's remain in love with each other and certainly with our love for God, because love is God. And we love because he loved us first, as the scripture says. So I'm glad and I'm thankful to be here today. I'm honored, Lynn, to be able to offer this wonderful time of remembrance for Leo and for you. And to know that we here at Unity are always here for you if you should need us in any way. So I'm grateful and I'm thankful for each of you. Let us go forth now and be blessed. And there's a blessing that we say in Unity, and I want to, we're going to have a close, before I do the benediction, then we're going to do a closing hymn, Praise Lord the Almighty. And all right, Phyllis is coming. Thank you.
Good morning. Lynn has asked me to lead the hymnal for the song, and I just wanted to say she used the word when she asked me to do it. The word was gusto, and so if any of you can sing with gusto, this is what she wants to hear.
Remain standing, please, for the benediction. So, loving Creator of all that is good, in whom we eternally live, move, and have our being, we open our hearts and minds to Thee in this moment, that we might be filled with the truth that brings the calm of perfect peace. We thank You for the revelation that there is no separation in spirit, that through Thee we are eternally united with one another. We thank you for the understanding that although our loved one, Leo, has passed from our sight, that he is still with us, and in you we are one. And to you, dear Leo, through the language of prayer, we extend now the blessings of our hearts and minds. And we know that your faith is a lamp unto your feet. We know that you are secure in God and in life that is endless. And we no longer bind you in our thought physically to this place or to this earthly garment. We let you go now to your new experience and expression in living. And we do not say goodbye, but rather Godspeed on your way. And may the light of God surround you and the love of God enfold you. May the power of God protect you and the presence of God watch over you. For where you are, God is, and all is well. May the grace of God continue to be with us all. In this we give thanks. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen and amen.